welcome back to the channel. We are at Alcatraz, checking out something I've wanted to do since I was a kid. So let's get into it, show you what we got into from the time we got on the boat until the time that we did the last tour of them slamming the cell doors. So let's get into it. Super excited about this one. Alcatraz landing. Welcome. Wow, that's kind of cool.
With children, visitors who can ride the train.
Yeah, so we're actually gonna like.
You're probably right. You're probably
Sit outside or inside?
Yeah, let's go.
Feathers, birds, on top of Alcatraz and sleep along with uneven walking surfaces. For everyone else, please take to watching. Unfortunately, it's not how it works. It's about 10 minutes. 25 you on the island in just a few minutes. Welcome to the Alcatraz night tour.
You guys ready to stay the night?
Let's do it.
I'm gonna say
You want to stay the night?
security special guest coming.
They decided you guys are staying just by yourselves. What do you think?
Eating, drinking, and smoking if you've got coffee.
Look at the pelicans. There's seagulls, birds everywhere. Pretty cool. Oh man, it's closed for your safety, John. Just for your safety. They don't want you walking upstairs.
To the top is 13 stories.
Oh, that's not that bad. It's pretty, it's definitely kind of creepy. It's definitely eerie. I think it's just the more, that solitary, like, silence.
I'm so tired that I'm like, I could nap.
What do we got here? Must be for when it was military. It started out as a military base. No, those aren't missiles, those are cannons, babe. Yeah, Julia, I want it. When we get to see the medical.
That's what you're looking for?
Oh, yeah, heck yeah.
How is it sells?
Yeah, the medical cell
I
ward.
don't want to see the medical cell.
Oh,
ward. I
heck
just wanna
yeah.
see cells.
Oh, you're gonna see cells. There's no question about that. Man. Lots of areas closed for your safety. Military workshops. Yeah, so this is if somebody passed away, Drake and Leah. Honestly, the only thing that has like a bigger like just feeling in your gut that I've been to would be Pearl Harbor. But this is pretty like just this feeling here.
Eerie.
I think being at night with the fog.
Yeah, that's cool.
It's
Good
like
for Halloween time.
yeah.
Yeah, it's a cool vibe here. I like this. This is a good idea. Rachel's only taking pictures of animals so far.
Yeah, I'm sure Rachel's like, I don't care about the broken down buildings and all the cells.
Just the birds.
I just want to see the medical. I really hope.
yeah.
Because I guess they have different parts open and they change it up. And I want to see the medical ward. I would assume they would keep that open on every tour.
I think they probably, well, I think we do an hour talking about this. They don't keep everything open just to try to encourage you to kind of
Yeah,
back.
come back more than once. Main. Oh, we're going to the main prison. So, well, how do we choose which? No, that can't. Is that really the top? Okay. I guess we're going here. Main prison. We found the main prison. You ready to find your bunk to sleep in tonight?
I'm sure they've done those little ghost shows.
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure. Mass incarceration in the United States. Oh yeah. Walls have definitely been painted. Hey, Aaliyah, this is where they give you your shoes and your clothes. They have this little counter. Next thing you know, there you go. It's like, this must be where they give you your bedding and your clothes. You first come in. Inmates arrive on the rock, handcuffed and shackled, some defiant, some resigned. Upon entering the cell house, these fresh fish submitted to a thorough search for contraband such as weapons and narcotics. Prisoners knew no privacy on Alcatraz here or anywhere else. The 40 showers originally had stalls, but they were removed in the 1950s to allow guards to oversee inmates and protect them from assault. Inmates would shower 2 times a week. After showering, inmates collected their prison issue clothing from the cage area in front of you. Once dressed in Alcatraz blues, convicts were marched into the general population cells to the floor above you.
The green button is your start and stop button. This is your volume up, volume down button. When you put this on your head, put the forward side and on the left side of your ear. The lanyard's going to go around your neck. To start your tour, you're going to go up those stairs. You're going to go to the right, and you can look for the big red sign. The big red sign is going to say, tour starts here, and that's where you're going to press that green button. Do not exit the perimeter of this building with these in your hand, because that will
Yep, I'll fix it when we go.
Oh yeah, that looks like a comfy bed, huh? Julie, look at this. Could you imagine being stuck in there all day, every day? Oof. That's not a lot of room.
Alcatraz was never no longer but there are many that say among the most troubled in one isolated prison. Many of the Alcatraz prisoners later on were paroled. And I just learned recently
This is our
that was
huh?
right,
This one.
just like Alcatraz, where you could or you can't.
So that means Robert Stroud's crime was a federal crime. So they sent him to federal prison. They sent him to McNeil Island, which is in Washington. Up there, he gets there right away, he stabs another inmate and seriously injures him. I believe he was probably trying to kill him. They sent him to Leavenworth. He gets to Leavenworth. There, he stabs a correctional officer to death. Kills a correctional officer. So now this is the second guy he's killed. They, because it was a correctional officer, sentenced him to death. Okay, his mother petitions the then president Woodrow Wilson to commute his sentence, and she presents him with all kinds of evidence about his troubled childhood. And Wilson says, "Okay, I'm going to commute your sentence," but the federal prison system said, "You're going to Alcatraz, dude." So they sent him here to Alcatraz. And by the way, just for your information, almost all the inmates here at Alcatraz were here because they caused problems at other institutions. Fights, escape attempts. In Stroud's case, he killed somebody. So he gets here to Alcatraz. They have him down there in D block. And he calls the officers in one night. He says, I'm sick. And they look at him and they go, "You're not sick, Stroud. We'll see you tomorrow." This enrages him. He gets all the other inmates fired up down there. And They start burning their mattresses, burning toilet paper, flooding their cells. So in essence, he caused a mini riot down there. The officers come rushing in. They go, "What's going on? Why are you guys doing this?" And they said, "Because you're not helping Stroud and he's sick." They go to Stroud's cell. Nothing's amiss. Nothing's burned. Nothing's flooded. He's just sitting, kicking back in there, reveling in the fact that he caused this mini riot. You know? And so the officers go, "We got to get this guy out of here." So they bring him up here, and in fact, he is sick, which is not surprising. He's been in prison for a number of years already. But it's instead of building him his own little cell, they throw him in that room over there that you probably walked through already, the size of a hotel room, big old room. And there he lived for 11 years in solitary confinement. If you notice when you walk back, there's 2 doors on them. There's an outside wooden door and then a bar door on the inside. So they could shut him down because he liked to talk a lot and he liked to raise people, raise the temperature of things, so to speak. But so he lived in that cell for 11 years in solitary confinement. And some people say, well, that's torture, you know. But who can live in the mind of Stroud? You know, he probably was thinking, I live in a hotel room here. Everybody else is in a little tiny cell down there. Other inmates were probably jealous of it. So, but here's a little glimpse into the mind of Robert, the psyche of Robert Stroud. At the end of his life, they transferred him to a medical facility in Missouri. And he gets there, he petitions the courts to set him free. Remember, he's already killed 2 people and seriously injured another guy. He petitions the court to set him free. So they get him into court and they go, "Okay, Stroud, why should we let you go?" And he goes, "Well, because I'm getting old and there's still a lot of people I have to kill." So that seems crazy on the surface, and there's probably some elements of that. But here's my take on it. This is just my personal take. I believe he was at the end of his life. He hadn't seen the outside world a lot at all, if any. And this was his last chance. If he petitions the court, they have to take him for a ride. He has to go and appear in court, so he got to take a ride to court. And something that he liked to do, he got to say something really crazy to a bunch of people. You know? So, yeah, that's my take on his motivation for that. But remember this, I say Stroud was good with birds and bad with people. He actually wrote 3 books on the diseases of birds, and some of them got high acclaim. I'm not sure how good they really were. I haven't read them, and I'm not an expert anyway. But they did get high acclaim. Could be partially because he was a prisoner. You know, and as far as the Birdman of Alcatraz is concerned, he never had birds here at Alcatraz. His birds he had at Leavenworth, and he did study them a lot, and he had a lot of them. The movie industry came up with the name The Birdman of Alcatraz, and you have to admit that's a pretty good sounding name, you know, for a movie. It was portrayed by Burt Lancaster, and they tried to portray him as a kindly, gentle, older gentleman that took care of birds, you know, and didn't put a lot of emphasis on some of the things that he'd done. And that's why I say he was good with birds, bad with people. Yes, he did.
tour, they talk about these confinement rooms being completely dark, and one of the prisoners took a button off, and he would throw the button up in the air and let it fall, and since it was completely dark, he would just spend his time searching this small little area for the button, and when he found it, he would start over again. Solitary confinement in a dark box. Be pretty miserable. That's an old fire extinguisher. In here, babe?
Yeah.
That's a head. What? Where's a body?
And security was incredible. There was one officer here for every 3 prisoners, maximum security, and so many different layers, of security here. But even with all that security, there were still ways that the prisoners found to sort of circumvent, that security. And one of those stories occurred right here at Visitation. There was a prisoner named Joe Kretzer. And Joe Kretzer was intent on escaping from the mat factory. And they made mats for Navy ships out of recycled tires. And this was in the 1940s, the early 1940s. And so he figured that the old bars on the old workshop that had not been remodeled were soft steel. In other words, if you had the right tools, you could get through the bars. And so he got together with 2 other prisoners, and they decided that on the afternoon in this particular day in May of 1941, that they're going to escape through the shop and get down to the bay. Well, Joe Kretzer, his first language was American Sign Language. Both his mom and dad were deaf. And in fact, his dad invented one of the first alarm clocks for deaf people. And so anyway, he was able to communicate with his wife that also knew sign language. They were both hearing, but they both knew sign language. And so they could communicate through the visitation windows using sign language. And in fact, visitation was monitored over a telephone here. There was a listening station inside the control center in those days.
But he was able to relay to his wife that on this particular day in May of 1941, at this time, we're going to get through the window in the mat shop, and please have a boat ready for us on the bay. And so anyway, long story short, folks, that particular afternoon when the escape was happening, a correctional officer named Captain Madigan, and he was a correctional captain. He wanted to do a surprise inspection on the shop, and when he walked into that shop, he was just shocked at what he was witnessing. He walks in, he sees two correctional officers tied up, sitting on the floor. He sees 8 prisoners had been tied up by the prisoners that were trying to escape. And then, of course, he gets tied up. And so he's sitting there on the floor wondering, how am I going to quell the situation? Well, anyway, Joe Kretzer is over at the window with 2 other prisoners, and they have this grinding wheel that they stole from another shop, and they're feverishly trying to get through the window bars. And Captain Madigan calls one of the prisoners named Red Barkle over to him and said he knew that he could reason with Barkle a bit. And so he said, you know, Barkle, you've been at it for a while, you're not making much progress. I have an idea. What if you untie me and we go around together and we untie the others and that'll be that? What do you say? And Barkle shook his head and spun around and walked back towards the window. But they say that in less than a minute, Barkle went back to Captain Madigan and says, Mr. Madigan, you're right, sir. And he unties him. Captain Madigan actually convinced the prisoners to give up. And the thing is that in the end, Joe Kretzer's wife, she never did come with the boat because she was arrested the night before for something else. I don't know what the charge was, but I like to imagine that perhaps it was for trying to steal a boat. Yeah. I'd like to demonstrate the doors, but perhaps, you know, when you came over tonight, you didn't realize that there were many layers of security on and around Alcatraz. The bay itself used to be a good natural deterrent against escape. The cold 54-degree waters, the strong currents. And then what you don't see tonight is the tall chain link fencing that surrounded the island with the barbed wire curved inward along the top. Beyond the barbed wire fences were 6 strategically placed gun towers. And beyond the gun towers was the safest place of all, the cell house. And so I invite you to come walking down Broadway with me, right this way, and look into these old cells across from you. And realize when you look into these old cells, you're looking in to what was somebody's home. Or as Leon Thompson told me years ago, he was 1465. He said, that was my house. He said, everything I had in the world was in there. And he said, at least you were safe in your cell. They were single occupancy. Nobody could get to you until those doors opened up after 7 o'clock, you know, the next morning. And he says, even though there were single occupancy, he says, sometimes it felt like those walls were closing in on you as well. So here we go. I'm going to go ahead and open these doors, and I'm going to rack them all, and you'll hear the sound of the slammer.
Come here, Jake.
You'll hear the prison and what it sounded like. Now, folks, if the doors are open, there are so many security features. For example, the doors are open and you see the red in the door jamb. And that tells the officer back at the gang box here, he could see at a glance what cell doors were open. As could the armed officer in the gun gallery, right over here, you could see as well. And then, when the prisoners came out of their cells, they would make a sharp right-hand turn and go down the stairs in front of the officer. And that was always a security thing too, never behind. You know, if the prisoners did go behind an officer for some reason, there was usually another officer watching from another direction. But in this case, you'd have the prisoners go down the stairs in front of the officer, and they'd come off the tiers and form two lines into the chow hall, you know, down at the end there, for example. So I'm going to close these cells. It's a great mechanical system. It was developed by a company called Stewart Ironworks out of Cincinnati, especially for Alcatraz in 1933, and installed in August of 1933.
Windows, doors
And
shut.
so
Let's just
what I'd like to do now is open a few cells. So you can always open, you know, all the cells at once, or you could open a series of cells, or, you know, just one at a time. And it's such a versatile system. If you had a prisoner that had what they used to call a medical lay-in here, they weren't going to report to work, and you can literally go to A for all. And then the officer would select the one cell for the sick prisoner, and then take the clutch and push it all the way back into the box. That's the lockdown position. And go back to neutral with the clutch, and the A for all is going to pick up all the cells around the one you just locked down. So, somebody give me a number between 1 and 13.
3.
3. Okay. Let's go to number 3. There we go. Okay, one more number.
7.
7. I heard 7. And I heard 12. So I'm going to go up to 12 now. 3, 7, and 12. Hammer down. Here we go. 3, 7, and 12. Okay. So I'm going to cut the 12, close, go down to 7, close, go down to 3, and let's pick up cell 1 and 2. So when those 3 close, cell 1 and 2 should then pop open. Let's see if that works. Now, folks, I'd like you all to close your eyes and just pretend that you're not going to take the boat that we've arranged for you tonight. You're here on the rock for the next 10 years. Your friends, your family, going about their business out in the free world. And you're here. And the last big sound that you're going to hear that signals the end of your day is the sound of your tear shedding for the evening. 5:30 was usually final lockdown. And then lights out was at 9:30. That meant that a lot of prisoners read, they played blind chess, they would call out moves to other prisoners, and it was very interesting. They had a lot of things to do. Some prisoners even knitted. Knitting, there was a time when knitting was big on Alcatraz for the prisoners. And I know a young seminarian that worked here at Alcatraz before he was ordained. And he was going to be ordained as a priest. And part of his cassock that he wore at his ordination was knitted by Alcatraz prisoners. And so what I'd like to do now is knows these cells. So just close your eyes and just listen to this sound. Rack inside. C2. Rack up. Okay, so open your eyes, folks. Now, I'd like you all to pretend that you're on the other side of the bars, but you know that you've been wrongfully convicted of your crime. And I was surprised to learn about a year ago that there is an organization called the Innocence Project, and they work very hard to help to overturn wrongful convictions in the United States. And through their research, they have determined that it's quite possible that as many as 4% of incarcerated people in the United States, that's a little over 2 million people behind bars today, quite possible that as many as 4% may very well have been wrongfully convicted, and many of those perhaps even innocent of the crime that they were convicted for. And they say that one of the problems, the biggest problem, is faulty eyewitness testimony, they say. And so I was very interested to learn, about this. But when you think about Alcatraz, remember that this particular facility was prison inside the prison system. And many of the men that were held here were in other facilities, and they wouldn't do good time or couldn't do good time in other facilities. And they were sent here to learn to do good time and earn that coveted transfer off the rock to a less restrictive prison, and then hopefully gain parole from that other facility after Alcatraz. So I'm going to do the doors one more time here, folks, and so you can hear once again that sound of the sound. Well, folks, I invite you now, if you'd like, the easiest way to escape, okay, is to go down to the dining room and down the stairs, and we'll see all of you on the boat in just a little while. But if you'd like, come on over this way, and I'll show you a closer view of the gears and levers inside the gang box over here. So this is the gang box, the gears and levers. Here's the instructions for correctional officers, but unfortunately, many of the prisoners who have the system operated as well, which was evidenced in what happened here in 1946, when there was a cell house takeover that lasted 3 days. So instructions, here you have your clutch, and this clutch looks like a clutch that you would see on a San Francisco cable car. It's all based on railroad technology, which a lot of the railroad technology dates back to the 19th century. But here we have a selector, and you can see the numbers 1 through 13. There's a little A for all on the bottom. And here's your hammer, or actuating arm. So if I go to A, and I'm going to pull the clutch, go back to neutral, and bring the hammer down. All the cells open. And the more cells that you tack on to open, the heavier it gets. I mean, it's a beautiful system, and it's called a rack and pinion system. And the thing is, though, even though it gets heavier, it's really not that bad, considering each cell front weighs 250 pounds apiece. Here we go. I'm going to go ahead and close the cells. And then there you have it. Great system. Well, folks, thank you very much for joining me tonight. Have a great evening and a safe trip back to the city.
Thank you. Mannequin heads they made that were in the beds when they escaped. What is this? William Baker. If I had served time on the Rock as a prisoner and wrote a book, I don't think I'd ever want to step back on to sign, but that's pretty cool. That must be pretty exciting when he's here. Yeah, I wish we had had a little more time for sure.
Step and hold on to a handrail, especially when going up or down stairwells. During your stay in San Francisco, consider visiting our other national park sites. The Presidio of San Francisco offers walks.
Alright guys, well that completes today's video. This was a bucket list item for me. Pretty exciting. This was a lot of fun. So, until next time,